he?
Oh, miss, your oil is down a quart. Should I put in Triton 20 or 30?
We'll make it 30.
Make it 30. Just as simple as that. Betty doesn't have to bother her pretty head about the where or the how of the oil for her car. She's a stranger to the thousands of men who combine their skills and energies in the teamwork that produces the oil. Men who pit brain and brawn against solid rock, piercing 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 feet to liberate the crude oil imprisoned for timeless ages in the vitals of the earth. Or the transportation crews, working day and night to maintain supply lines, moving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of barrels a day by pipeline and by sea, shrinking great distances to a matter of hours. Till finally, through the magic of chemistry, still another team refines the oil in a series of complex operations and extracts the many products of petroleum, gasoline, kerosene, solvents, and the lubricating oil, which is delivered over perhaps 1,000 miles to the station, where it finds its way into Betty's car. No, Betty needn't know all that, because she does know Bill Horner. And like most of Bill's customers, she places her confidence in him. I'm sure she'd be interested if she knew about the complicated chain linking Bill's station to the oil fields. But, well, a girl has a lot of other things to think about. After all, pretty is as pretty does, and that's the way it should be. But to the men of industry and commerce, oil is a vital necessity. And to the men of this station, oil is vital too. For along with gasoline, it is a major source of profit. Bill Horner's station might be any one of us. He figures he can handle a selling job all right. Feels he was just cut out for this kind of work. Should be a natural.
All set, Mr. Horner. Lead me to it.
Well, you look all right. All ready to go, huh? Think you're going to like the work?
Oh, yes, sir. I always did want to get in this business. I like to work outside and meet different kinds of people.
That's good. Well, got a lot of things to learn. Now, let's see. I think I'll start you out in the pump island. Oh, I've already put your name on the chart here. See?
What's that, Mr. Horner?
Well, this shows the oil sales by every man in the station. At the end of the month, we pay a little bonus. Oh, I've tried a lot of plans, but this one seems to work out the best in keeping up the oil sales. There's your profit maker. After all, our Triton's the best brand on the market, so we're not bashful about pushing it.
Well, that's okay with me, but you better reserve 2 columns for my name. I'm a born salesman.
Well, all right, let's go see. Oh, that's Ralph Courtney. He got his start with me, too. You're going to get a lot of competition from Ralph. He's a good salesman.
Will you unlock the hood, please?
Oh, never mind the oil, some other time.
Yes, sir. Maybe we'd better make sure about the water.
Yeah, maybe we better.
Yes, sir. She was pretty thirsty, all right.
Yeah, so I see. Well, maybe you better look at the oil, too, while you're at it.
Yes, sir.
That's lesson number 1. You've got to get under the hood. You never can tell what a customer needs until you get under the hood and find out.
I get it.
Now I'll show you how the pumps operate.
Okay.
Now, to start pumping gas, you lift this hose. Raise this lever. You clear this dial by turning your crank. You're ready to go.
It's down a quart, sir.
Oh?
Should I put in Triton 20 or 30?
Yeah. Okay, quarter 30.
Yes, sir.
Open this can, put it on the ground. And take this point, put it right over the lip of the can like that. There. Now your oil is ready for your customer's car.
How are you holding up?
For me? Oh, fine. It's a cinch. Well, see you tomorrow.
Night.
Good night, Mr. Horner.
Oh, Charlie, come here a minute. I want to show you something that just came in. Give you a little idea how important it is to get under every hood. Now, look. They took the average day's sales at a few of these stations where the fellows weren't making too much of an effort to get under the hood. These black bars represent the oil sales for that day. Now then, They picked a day when the boys were asked to make a special effort to get under the hood and check the oil. Look at the difference in oil sales. Way ahead.
Well, I won't miss any chances, Mr. Horner, as soon as you give me a crack at it.
That'll come soon enough, Charlie. Now, good night.
Good night.
Oh, Charlie. Tell her hello for me.
How was your first day?
Not much to it. This Horner's a little old-fashioned. He wants me to learn a lot of easy things before he let me handle the customers.
And you, a born salesman?
How'd you know?
Well, you sold me.
Oh, you'll see, though. I'll have my own station someday. Then I'll find myself some nice girl to marry.
I'll see what I can do to help you find one.
Well, when the time comes, maybe I'll give you a chance, Miss Rogers. Oh, Helen, what do you want to eat?
Hamburger.
2 hamburgers, without onions.
Yes, Charlie has a young man's dreams, and also his impatience. But first he has to learn the 101 details of his job, fitting himself in like a cog in a well-oiled machine. You'd be surprised how much there is to learn, and how much training it takes to make a good station attendant. Lots of men never make the grade, though it looks easy when a top-notch man like Ralph carries through to a sale. Charlie's still sure that it is easy, if they just give him a chance to show them. But it seems you have to start at the bottom. The only thing is, when does a guy get to work up?
Hey, Charlie. Go ahead.
Ah, now this is more like it.
Your oil is down a quart, ma'am.
Oh, let it go. My husband takes care of that.
Well, I'm sure he'd approve of our Triton.
You don't know my husband. He thinks more of this car than he does of me.
Well, how could he do that, ma'am? He must be blind.
Well, maybe he doesn't really. I guess we can try a quart of your oil.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you. Come back again. How was that, Mr. Horner? Did you see me make that sale?
Yeah, good. You did a fine job of selling yourself, Charlie. But don't forget to sell the quality of Triton.
Oh, I'll do that, Mr. Horner.
Mr. Horner! Mr. Horner!
Uh-oh. Oh, that's Miss Quimby. She's been smelling gas in her car for 15 years. Good morning, Miss Quimby.
Good morning, Bill. I want you to look in my car. There's a definite smell of gas this morning.
Well, we certainly can't have that, can we? I'll check the lines.
And Bill,
Yes.
check my batteries. Do whatever it is you do to the batteries, but don't you miss any of them. Bill, have a gumdrop.
Oh, fine. Thank you.
Do you have to waste much time like that?
That's not wasted time. It's part of the service. And all service leads to sales. Don't forget that.
Thank you, Bill. I feel safer now.
Glad to see you anytime, Miss Quimby.
Oh, sir. Your oil is down 1 quart. Shall I put in Triton 20 or 30?
Triton? Is that a Western oil?
Well, I guess so, sir.
Oh, well, not for me, son. Oh, I'll stick with Pennsylvania oil
Oh,
myself.
Triton's a very fine brand, sir.
Why?
Well, because it's made by a good company.
There are a lot of good companies, my boy. And now tell me about your oil here. I understand these Western oils have a very low viscosity index. Is that true?
Visca. Well, I don't think so, sir.
What about the flash point? I hear it's much lower than Eastern oils.
Flash point?
Yeah. Oh, well, never mind. Never mind it now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can't beat the Eastern oils.
Beg your pardon, sir. Can you change this, Ralph?
Sure. Hey, what's the matter?
Huh? Oh, nothing. Say, what's a flash point?
Well, that's the temperature where the oil fumes ignite.
Oh.
I'm sure glad to hear about that. Always glad to learn something new.
Oh, Charlie, will you take care of this gentleman? He needs a quart of Triton, 30.
Why, sure, Mr. Horner.
Come in again.
Was he a friend of yours, Mr. Horner?
No? I never saw him before in my life.
Well, then how...
Look, Charlie, a nice personality is important, but it's only the beginning. To be a good salesman, you've got to know your product, and you've got to be sold on it yourself. Now, when a customer comes in for gas, he's generally sold on that gas. But if he needs oil, he may not know it. You've got to get under his hood, check his oil, and then try to sell him Triton. That's where you've got to know your stuff. How much do you think it cost Union Oil to put the first can of Triton on the market?
Oh, about 40 cents.
More than $8 million.
$8 million?
That's just about what it cost them to put it out. You see, years ago, there were two kinds of oil sold out here. One was made from a Pennsylvania-type crude, the other from our California crude. That's why they call it Eastern and Western. I was just starting in the business then, and... My first station. Naturally, I handled Western Oil. Oh, it did a good job for the cars we had in those days, you know, like the Model T. But by the early 30s, engines had changed. They developed more speed, more power. Oil took more punishment. Well, with the refining methods known at that time, the Eastern people were able to get a lot better lubricating oil out of their crude than we were. Result was, Western Oil just couldn't compete. Say, by the way, I had a little booklet in here. I could find it. Tells a mighty interesting story about what Union Oil did when we got in that jam. Yeah, this is it. Yeah. Technical facts about motor oils. A chemist who's in on the whole thing tells a story. Nice part of it is he tells it so we can understand it. It doesn't get complicated, too technical. And then he starts over here, along about 1930, when we were having that oil trouble.
I tell you, fellas, we've got to bear down on this lube oil problem. There's no reason in the world why we can't get a top-quality motor oil out of Western crude. Simply a matter of finding the right method. And that's our job.
We research chemists knew that all crudes contained the components of a good lube oil in different degrees. Our problem was to take out the undesirable elements, beginning with asphalt. A solvent would separate the asphalt from the rest of the lube fraction, so find the solvent. Not just any solvent, but the best one. We tried one liquid. No good. We tried another. Tried 100. Months went by. Somewhere in the maze of molecular structures, there had to be a formula that was the right one. We had to close in on it. Eliminate. Reject. Isolate. We kept getting closer. Even knew what we were looking for. And finally, we had it. Propane. The solvent we hunted so long was not a liquid at all, but a gas called propane. In liquid form, the propane is mixed with the oil under carefully controlled temperature conditions. The undesirable components are selectively extracted and settle out. When this step was completed, we had obtained for the first time a pure paraffin base oil from Western crude. And the beauty of our propane process was that it took care of our second problem, getting the wax out of the oil. We could chill the solution by allowing some of the liquid propane to vaporize. The drop in temperature brings the wax out in crystals which are readily filtered. With the asphalt and wax taken out, there were still some undesirable components remaining. So we developed a solvent extraction process using liquid chemicals that are heavier than the oil. When the chemical solvent is mixed with the oil under carefully controlled temperature conditions, the heavy solvents settle out, taking with them the undesirable portions of the oil. But it's a long jump from success in the laboratory to actual production. Teams of draftsmen, designers, and engineers had to pool their knowledge and skills to design and construct the complicated equipment that would go into the new refinery. The company's faith in the new oil would be expressed in a tremendous installation costing many millions of dollars in capital investment and representing the creative genius of invention and science. Out of the bare flatlands would rise structures envisioned in the minds of the designers and engineers. Here our new oil would be refined by processes fundamentally like the ones we devised in the laboratory, only on a gigantic scale. Yes, every indication told us that our discovery was as good as the best, maybe better, but we had to prove it. We'd put it through every test we knew, compare its performance with the finest oils known. First, the flash test. Our old Western oils were certainly deficient in this respect. Heat the oil. Watch the temperature. 200 degrees, 300 degrees. Try it for flash. No reaction. 350. This is where the old oils flashed. 400. Try it again and again. No reaction. 440. Most Eastern oils would have flashed by this time. 460. There's the flash at 470 degrees. Our new process had given us a tremendous improvement in flash point. We had caught up with the best of Eastern oils and surpassed most of the quality products known at that time. Now for viscosity. We'd make tests to prove that our new oil would not thin out at high temperatures and at the same time would flow at low temperatures. The oil is adjusted to a standard temperature and its viscosity is determined as the number of seconds required for 60 milliliters to flow through a small orifice. The tests added up to a viscosity index comparable to the best of Eastern oils. We went on to the carbon residue test. A measured amount of oil is allowed to burn under controlled conditions, leaving a residue which indicates the carbon-forming characteristics of the oil. We got what we were looking for, absolute proof that our oil formed remarkably less carbon than any of the others. A soft, flaky carbon compared with the hard, abrasive carbon from the Eastern oils, the kind that leads to engine troubles like pre-ignition and stuck rings. We continued, using every criterion by which an oil can be evaluated. The acid number, the pour point, the oxidation test, specific gravity. We proved that we had a 100% pure paraffin base oil that was in many respects superior to the best oils then on the market. So we gave our new discovery a brand new name, Triton, and sent it out to do the job.
And it did a job all right. Triton was an oil we could sell. And it didn't take the public long to catch on either.
Mr. Horner.
Yeah?
Will you okay this check?
Thanks.
I wish I'd have known about all this when that man asked for an Eastern oil.
Well, that's why I could make the sale. It's like I said before, you've got to know your product and you got to believe in it.
Well, what are these patented compounds?
Oh, he's just about to get to that over here in the story. You know, this research never stops. It goes on all the time.
We couldn't afford to stand still even though we had the best oil on the market because engine design improved all the time. Compression ratios and horsepower were constantly being increased. And these factors, combined with closer tolerances in the moving parts of the engine, put heavier and heavier demands on the lubricating oil. Bearings made of new alloys began to appear in engines, And these created a new lubrication problem because they were more susceptible to acid corrosion. Even our Triton wasn't able to protect them under all conditions. We just have to get an improved oil.
Take a look at this, Tom.
I don't know what to say. We've gone as far as we can in trying to take the undesirable components out of Triton.
Well, we certainly can't refine it any further.
We'd only start to lose the desirable characteristics.
You're right, we can't refine the oil any further. But maybe we can add something to it. We've simply got to find some compound that will fortify the oil.
In other words, we had to find some additives. At the time, it looked like a pretty tough problem, but like other problems, it started to give way when we put some pressure on it. We found our additives one by one. The principal function of motor oil is to provide a protective lubricating film for the pistons, bearings, and other critical moving parts of the engine. From this film of oil, we will take one tiny drop for illustration. Oil does its part to guard the working metal surfaces against frictional wear, corrosion, and other factors leading to engine damage. Oxygen from the air is the primary cause of oil breakdown. Reaction of oxygen with the oil at elevated engine temperatures produces several harmful chemical changes. Acid forms and launches a vicious attack on sensitive, unprotected bearing metals. Soft, sticky oxidation products combine with moisture, carbon, and unburned fuel from the combustion chamber to form sludge. Sludge deposits are found in vulnerable places like oil lines and around the piston rings. The function of our additives would be to strengthen the oil, to prevent these chemical changes. First, we added a compound to resist the effects of oxygen, to retard its action with oil, and therefore minimize the resultant formation of acid and sludge. Next, a second additive was needed to cope with acid, which might get by our guard against oxygen. Finally, a third compound was added to deal with sludge by providing a detergent action which cleans the engine and keeps it clean by holding sludge-forming particles harmlessly suspended in the oil. In this way, our combination of additives, antioxidant, corrosion inhibitor, and detergent gave us an effective safeguard against the enemies of lubrication.
How is it holding up?
It's even better than I hoped for. Still clean as a whistle.
But we had to send it out on the road to see how it would perform in a practical test. We used all kinds of cars, a wide variety of models and makes, of all ages, in different states of repair, and sent them out into all kinds of driving conditions. Across deserts, and over mountains, through heat and cold. The test cars ran day and night for weeks on end. And then we tore the engines down and studied the parts like prize jewels. That was the clincher. Engines were clean, rings were free, there was little carbon, and no corrosion. Our lab tests were confirmed. Other people had been in the race for compounds, but we had developed a unique combination which we were able to patent.
Well, the war was final proof of compounded oil. Our compounds provided an all-purpose oil that went through all kinds of weather, from the Arctic to the jungle, and in all kinds of machines. And what was maybe most important to the generals, lasted longer.
Well, sure, the Army couldn't stop in the middle of a battle to change oil.
That's just the point. And those same additives are right there in Triton doing a job today. Your job's to sell it.
I don't know if I can remember all you told me. I'd like to take this book home.
Sure, take it home, study up on it. Just make sure you pass all the information on to the customers. The easiest and simplest way to do that is to just show them the message on the back of the can.
Well, I'll sure do that, Mr. Horner, and thanks.
Okay, Charlie.
Yes, there was more to salesmanship than Charlie thought. But he's quick to learn. And every day on the pump island, he adds to what he knows. With his natural ability, his new knowledge, and confidence in his product, he's soon handling himself like a veteran.
Whole foreign matters, such as carbon and dirt, harmlessly suspended. That's a very important point, sir. Triton gives your engine better protection regardless of your established drain interval.
Yes, I remember seeing some ads about that. I'm about ready for an oil change. Let's put in some Triton.
Yes, sir.
But I hear that first quart burns off fast anyway, so it's all right to run a quart low.
Well, I think it's safer, sir, to go by what the manufacturer recommends. He set the safe driving level where you get the best out of your engine.
Yes, I suppose so. But haven't you got a cheaper oil than Triton?
Well, there's all kinds of oil, sir. But in Triton, you get an extra margin of safety that gives you a saving in the long run.
Yes, I guess you have something there. Is it all right to mix it with the oil I have in the crankcase?
Oh, yes, sir, it certainly is.
All right. Give me a quart of Triton 30.
Yes, sir.
Of course, even the most experienced salesman encounters the unexpected once in a while.
Don't trouble yourself, young man. 'Tis of no importance.
Oh, it only takes a moment to check your oil and water, sir.
Life is made up of moments, my boy. See that they're well spent.
But, sir, your oil might be very low.
To me, personally, that is a matter of the utmost indifference. It's not my car. It's my mother-in-law's.
Good night, Mr. Horner.
Good night, Charlie. See you tomorrow.
End of the day. Another good day. Charlie is fitting himself nicely into the smooth teamwork of the station. And Bill Horner rests secure in the knowledge that behind his station stands a whole vast complex of teams working for the same end, making their product known in advertising, television, and radio. Teams of the fields opening new sources of supply, keeping the flow of oil in a steady stream to plants and refineries. Engine design may change again, will change again, as the forward surge of progress finds need for more and greater power. But still another union team moves progress forward in the laboratories. Whatever comes, the makers of Triton will be ready again, ready to lead the field, keeping pace, improving on the past, anticipating the future.
All right, Jenny. But we don't want to be late to the store.
Hello, Jenny Rockford speaking.
Jenny, this is Mrs. Drake.
Oh, Mrs. Drake.
Jenny, we need someone to help out with the children for the Saturday recreational program. I know you've been thinking about going into teacher education, and this would be good experience.
Oh, I'd like to, but I'm not sure. I'm working at the store Saturdays, you know. Dad wants me to go into merchandising.
Good morning, Jenny.
Who's that on the phone, Jenny?
Mrs. Drake,
Oh, the school teacher.
there's an opening Saturday at the recreation area. They've asked her to help find someone.
Well?
I told her I'd let her know.
But, Jenny, we went all through that teaching business before. I thought you'd made up your mind to go into merchandising or take a business course and get something practical.
But teachers have to take practical things. In the College of Education, you have to study.
Here is newfangled ideas, and I'm not the only one who believes that. Listen to this. Teacher and citizen alike need to think twice before they swallow every newfangled educational theory which comes along. It is late, but not too late to return to those character-building disciplines which were developed with the good old-fashioned teaching of reading, writing, and arithmetic. What do you think of that?
I don't think I'd want the man who wrote that for my teacher. I've got to hurry. Be with you in a minute.
I don't understand it. I can help her get started in the store. She'll make good in merchandising, make some money.
Fred, Jenny's getting old enough to have a mind of her own.
I don't want to force her into the store.
Perhaps this chance to work with children will help her decide.
I only want to do what's best for Jenny. Anybody can teach school. Oh, Mrs. Drake, how are you?
Just fine. How's Jenny?
She's working here on Saturdays, you know.
Yes, I heard she was. How's she getting along?
There she is. Well, to tell you the truth, I think she still has notions about teaching. Mrs. Drake, I'm in a position to give Jenny a good start in merchandising. It's the kind of work that offers real opportunities to a girl.
More than school teaching?
I shouldn't have to tell you, Mrs. Drake. These new theories and this newfangled stuff. There was an editorial in the paper this morning.
Yes, I read it. Mr. Rockford, you and I and that editorial writer can remember things the way they were when we went to school. But times have changed. Teaching today is a profession requiring specialized preparation, skill, and understanding.
Yes, but what about the money?
Well, fortunately, people everywhere are beginning to realize that you have to pay better salaries to get better teachers.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Drake. I've been meaning to stop by after school and talk to you.
Good, anytime.
Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Bye.
I don't want her to make a mistake. I just want her to be happy.
Even if it means being a school teacher?
Why do I keep thinking I'd like to be a teacher? What's it really like? Good teachers like teaching. It must be terrible to be a teacher and not like it. Could I be a good one? Like Mrs. Drake?
Well, Jenny.
You asked me to come up for a talk.
Of course. I didn't think you'd come quite so soon, though. Sit down.
I had a long session today with Mr. Mitchell, going over my tests and achievement exams and things.
It's always interesting to take stock of ourselves, see where we stand.
I'll have to decide pretty soon if I'm going into the university in the fall. Dad wants me to register in the School of Business Administration.
What's the matter, Ginny?
There are so many advantages in business, and I do want to be practical. But I just can't stop wanting to be a teacher, in spite of what some people say. Never make any money, how people are always watching everything you do. Is it as bad as they say?
It can be bad sometimes, Ginny, but it can be good, too. When I see a child look at me with a slow kind of surprise, his real understanding comes alive in his mind. It's worth 10 times all those hard, unpleasant things.
But what made you decide?
I guess I felt very much as you do now, Ginny. I just seemed to know I'd like the teaching part. But to deliberately decide that I was willing to be one of those cartoon characters, a school teacher, that wasn't easy. There was a boy in one of my classes. Everyone thought Gerald was dumb. Even Gerald himself believed it.
Gerald, name the principal parts of this sentence. Well?
I couldn't laugh with the others. I felt sorry for Gerald, and somehow ashamed.
Sit down.
Later, when we were leaving school...
Hey, what's the matter? You deaf or something?
Then, in the State Teachers College catalog, I noticed a course on recognizing common symptoms of illness in children. I thought of Gerald. If I could just do that one thing, keep that from happening to other children. Well, I registered for teacher education. There have been a lot of changes since I went to school. How much more student teachers learn now about detecting simple signs of illness, poor hearing, emotional tensions, poor vision. A modern teacher learns to use the services of nurses, doctors, specialists of all kinds. But most important, she will learn about children themselves, how they grow, how they feel, how they learn. This knowledge is applied consciously and scientifically by teachers in schools. teaching is not based on any newfangled ideas. It's as old as parenthood itself. Without always knowing it, parents help by using the best teaching method, enjoying and participating in baby's effort. Using those things baby becomes interested in, but most of all, by kindness and understanding. Especially when baby doesn't quite pass the test. When your father and I went to school, fun was one thing. Learning was something else.
On a steep, stony hill in Greece, there lived in early times a few very poor people. They made their homes in little caves which they dug in the earth or hollowed.
Reading was one subject, writing another. Who would ever have thought there was any connection between the two?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put your feet on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're using your fingers. Use your arms. All right, boys and girls, everyone on page 23. Susan?
Even something as gay and full of fun as music turned out to be a chore.
Teach. Teach. T-E-A-C-H.
Then there was that treat, the spell down.
Capital M-I-double-S-I-double-S-I-double-P-I.
Schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse. S-C-H-O-O-L-H-O-U-S-E.
Antediluvian.
Antediluvian. A-N-T-E-D-I-L-U-V-I-A-N.
Such a concept of teaching was based on the feeling that learning must be unpleasant. A child rigidly held to unpleasant tasks must not only learn, but in some mysterious way be developing character. That editorial last week, a return to the good old-fashioned disciplines.
Dad read it to us. I guess that's pretty much the way he feels. But I am trying to do what he wants.
He wants what's best for you. Talk to him. He needs to understand how you feel.
But I have tried. He thinks school teachers don't know how to teach anymore. He thinks I get a lot of silly ideas that aren't practical.
How can we ever make them see? How can we make your father and all the busy grown-ups take the time to understand what every professional teacher knows? Because they see it for themselves every day, that reading, writing, and arithmetic are not separate, isolated aspects of living. These things are learned best when they are skillfully made a part of the child's whole life and interest. Student teachers learn to cultivate carefully many happy activities which prepare a child for reading. Young children visit the market and see many things they will want to remember and tell. Children want to know the words for many things they know. Are these children learning reading or spelling? Spelling or writing? Reading, writing, spelling come naturally together. And arithmetic is there too, long before the children know that there was a large, threatening word for it. Children want to do things grown-ups do, and how much a skilled teacher can help them learn while doing it. She has, or should have, a selection of books, maps, and other materials. She understands that children, like adults, need some time for uninterrupted work alone. Or perhaps need to be gently included in working and getting satisfaction being part of a group. To learn all this, to understand that each child is an individual and will learn when he has grown ready for different kinds of learning, to understand the meanings and feelings behind the things that children do takes time and professional preparation on the part of the teacher. Professors who themselves have experienced many years teaching make every effort to increase the professional competence of the student teachers. The student teacher herself must constantly examine and re-examine her own personal and professional qualifications. Every modern technical device is used to help further understanding. After she has begun regular teaching, professional magazines keep her informed of progress in other schools. And there are always the children. The teacher knows their growth and development is so much more than a series of lessons learned, examinations passed, for reading, writing, and arithmetic are tools to help us live. And the teacher knows that like any tools, we can master them best by using them, by learning that each of us has his own part in deciding together the things we all know are good.
Then you think I should enroll in education?
Making our own decisions is one of the hardest things about growing up, Ginny. But when a decision is really our own, then we can work better to make it come out as we planned.
But you think I should?
You're the one to make that decision, Ginny.
I'd hate to disappoint Dad.
Ginny, you do believe your father wants what's best for you, don't you?
Of course he does.
I won't be gone more than a couple of weeks. In the meantime, you know how to get in touch with me.
Now, don't worry. Ginny and I will get along without you for that long.
Don't be so anxious to get rid of me. That's a taxi. Jenny, I hope everything goes well for you at the store on Saturday. Goodbye.
Now, don't you worry. Everything will be fine. Goodbye.
Bye, Dad.
Bye. Bye, Jenny.
What is it, Jenny?
Oh, it's nothing. I ought to call Mrs. Drake and let her know.
What are you going to tell her?
Oh, Mother, I do want to work at the playground. I have worked at the store all those Saturdays. Dad.
Jenny, you'll be more satisfied in your own mind if you try this, won't you?
I'll call Mrs. Drake.
With a hose.
I'm looking for Jenny Rockford.
Oh, Miss Rockford. Right this way. Will you have a seat, please?
My third day on the job, I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. It was a nice layout. The pay was okay, but the boss sure kept the fellas on their toes. They never walked up to a car, they had to trot. Just as easy, the boss says, and it makes a good impression on the customers. Could be, but I don't know. Working here is sure going to be a lot different than the last place I worked. Even before I got the job, I got a going over that made me do some tall thinking.
I've checked your references, Ken, and there are a few things I'd like to clear up. According to your records, you changed jobs 4 times in the last 3 years. Would you like to tell me why?
Well, the job at the hardware store, that was just after I got out of the Army. I was kind of restless, I guess. Wasn't much to do, and the pay wasn't very much. So I started looking for something else.
What about Steve's market? I know Steve. I know he's not an easy man to work for.
You can say that again. But we got along fine. It was just that, well, I didn't like working there any more than I liked working at the hardware store. Then I got married, had to make more money, so I took a job as a route salesman.
Didn't stay with that long. Didn't you like selling?
I like working outside. I didn't mind selling. But I guess I wasn't a good enough salesman to hold the job.
What about the service station? Didn't you have to sell products and services there?
Yeah, some, but the boss did most of that.
Huh. Ken, have you given any thought to what you really want to do? I mean, 5 years, 10 years from now? Have you settled on the type of business you think you're best suited for?
No, I can't say that I have. I'm willing to work and willing to work hard.
Haven't really thought much about your future, is that it?
Well, some. Maybe not as much as I ought to.
Well, I'm asking you these questions, Ken, because until you make up your mind, until you decide what kind of business you want to stick with, you're not really going to be very much use to yourself or to anyone you work for.
Well, I'm not afraid to work. I can always get a job.
Oh, I understand that. But hard work without some aim, without some idea of what you're working toward, isn't going to get you very far. Tell me, do you like the service station business?
Yeah, I guess I like it all right.
Well enough to want a station of your own someday?
Well, I never thought about that. But I guess I do.
Well, don't you think it's something you ought to make up your mind about? You see, it takes time and money to train a man. And if you're just looking for another temporary job, I'd rather you told me so right now. It'd be better for both of us. You can't afford to waste your time any more than I can afford to waste mine. Now, on the other hand, if you're really serious about the service station business, I'm willing to develop you so someday you can have a station of your own.
Well, I know something about cars, and I like working around them.
Well, that's not enough. Running a service station, or working in one for that matter, calls for a whole lot more than just knowing something about cars.
Yeah, but I've had some experience.
Well, to be perfectly honest, Ken, from what you've told me, I doubt very much that you've had the kind of experience I'm looking for in a man. See, I have some pretty definite ideas about service, about the way I want my customers treated. And I want to be sure they get that kind of service, whether I'm here or not. That's why I pick my men pretty carefully. I want to be sure they fit on my team. See, I don't believe in hiring a man just as a helper. I train my men to be good sales and service men. Everything we do around here is aimed toward bringing more customers into the station and in selling each customer everything he needs for his car. Without those sales, I can't afford to pay the wages I do and still operate the station at a profit. Now, I'm telling you all this so there won't be any misunderstanding. I'm willing to pay you a fair salary, plus a commission on everything you sell over and above your quota. In return, I expect you to do your share of the housekeeping. I expect you to give every customer you wait on courteous service. I expect you to produce your share of the sales. Now, you're not going to learn all there is to know about the business in a week or in a month. But if you're really serious about the service station business, and if you're willing to work under those conditions, then I'm willing to train you and help you in every way I can.
To tell you the truth, I never thought about spending the rest of my life in a service station. But the way he talked about it did get me to thinking.
Do you think you're going to like working there?
I never know till you try.
What's he like?
Well, the boss seems like a nice guy. But I'll tell you one thing. There's going to be no fooling around on that job. He tells you right off what he expects of you and what you can expect of him.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Well, nothing. At least you know where you stand. Not like the last guy I worked for. He'd blow hot one minute and cold the next.
Do you think you'd like a station of your own?
I don't know. Might. But I got plenty of time to think about that. Right now I've got to study this book. He's going to quiz me on it tomorrow. The first day on a job is always a tough one. You're bound to be kind of nervous because you don't know how it's going to work out.
Oh, Bob, I'd like to have you meet Ken Niles. This is Bob Winters.
Ken, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Bob.
Will you get Ken a service? Now, Ken won't have a regular housekeeping assignment for the first few days, not till he gets acquainted with the operation. But I'd like to have him work the lube bay with you today. You be sure and show him where everything's kept, and how it's kept, and why it's kept that way.
Oh, I brought some clothes with me, some blue jeans and stuff.
Not at this station. You can wear a service coat for the first few days until we can arrange for a uniform, but after that, it's full uniform at all times. Now, you just take it easy, Ken. Help Bob with his housekeeping and get familiar with the stock and the tools and the products in the lube bay. After things ease up here a little bit, I'll come over and work with you.
I felt kind of funny about it at first, not being allowed to work on the island. But the way he explained it, I could see his point.
If there's some product you're not familiar with, Ken, I'll be glad to tell you about it and give you some material to study. Of course, some dealers believe in starting a man right out on the island. But I think that's a mistake. Because until you know all you can about the products and services you sell, I don't think you're in position to sell them.
I sold oil and grease jobs the last place I worked.
I don't doubt that you did. But we don't sell just any oil. We sell custom-made Haviland and Texaco motor oils, and there's a whale of a difference. Didn't you read about Haviland and Texaco oils in the Your Opportunity book?
Yeah, I remember some of it.
Well, until you remember all of it and can tell customers how Haviland will give them greater protection, you're hardly in a position to sell Haviland. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Maybe you better study the product section some more. Then, I'd also like to have you study this bulletin on our new Haviland Special 10W30 motor oil. The bulletin and the selling benefits on the can will give you the whole story. And tonight, I'd like to have you take the lubrication guide home with you. You'll see what I mean when I say we don't just sell grease jobs. We sell Marfac lubrication. But don't bite off more than you can chew. Just study the lubrication and the product sections of the guide, and tomorrow we'll tackle a Marfac job together, okay?
Oh, I can do a lube job. I've done lots of them.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. But you see, Ken, my whole business is built on the kind of lube job we do. Now, I don't doubt for a minute you can do a good job. From what I've seen of your work, you're neat and thorough, and you've got the makings of a good mechanic. But we have a regular procedure we follow with every car that comes into that lube bay. I'd like to go over it with you a few times. Did you ever stop to think, Ken, that when a customer turns over his car to you to lubricate or to check over, he's practically putting his life in your hands?
How do you mean?
Well, suppose you overlook some vital point, or break a seal by using a high-pressure gun on a low-pressure fitting. Could cause an accident, couldn't it?
Yeah?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we use the lube guide every time we lubricate a car. There's a lot of other reasons, too, but we'll go over them tomorrow after you've had a chance to guide.
I'll say one thing. The way he explained things sure made them a lot easier to remember. He never showed you how to do something without telling you why you ought to do it. Like when he showed me how to do a Texamatic drain and refill.
The handbrake set?
I want it on?
Always. Never take a chance. Always set the brake as far as it'll go and then chock a wheel to boot. Both sides. Now, you check the guide, and I'll explain each step as we go along. And if there's anything you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask questions. You know anything about automatic transmissions?
Not much. Pretty complicated, aren't they?
Yes, they are. But draining and refilling them is simple, if you follow the guide. See, they all operate on the same general principle, but there's just enough difference in the way they're made and the way they operate, so you want to always be sure to follow the guide when you do one. That way, you can't go wrong. Now, there's just one thing to remember about the mechanism. Inside this housing, there are two separate units. The driving member, which is driven by the engine, and the transmission. That's why you got to be very sure to drain both units and refill both units. Now, the drain plug for the driving member is on this big flywheel here. You just turn it around, the plug is at the bottom. There it is now. There, see it? Uh-huh. Then you use a 6-point socket wrench to remove the drain plug. And be sure you get the right size wrench, otherwise you'll damage the corners of the plug. Now, another thing, in order to drain that coupling completely, it has to be at, the fluid has to be at operating temperature. But if the car's just come in off a hard run, be careful, because that fluid gets so hot it can give you a bad burn. Now, this fluid you see draining now is only from the coupling. In order to drain all the fluid, you have to drain the transmission oil pan, too. Now, here's the plug for the transmission right here. Now, if you just remember that the coupling and the transmission are two separate units, you won't go far wrong. As soon as this fluid finishes draining, we can replace both plugs and the Taurus plate, and we're ready for refill. Now, you want to remember this is a pretty delicate piece of mechanism, so always clean the area around the dipstick before you take it out. Dirt or moisture in the unit can cause a lot of damage, so you can't be too careful. Now, if there's an air cleaner on the dipstick, you clean that out with kerosene. That's another precaution against dirt. Now, you notice I only put in 8 quarts. The lube guide shows a capacity of 11 quarts, isn't that right?
All right.
I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, now start the engine. Be sure the brake's set and the selector's at neutral. Now we'll run the engine for 1.5 minutes. At a low speed of about 20 miles an hour. Now then, let me show you what's happening. Here's the coupling unit. Now, in order to operate, this unit has to be filled with the fluid, because the fluid acts as a coupling. When we put in the 8 quarts, it went into the transmission, filling it, I'd say, up to about here, which is over the full mark. But when we started the engine, the fluid was pumped out of the transmission up into the coupling, here. So now, with the coupling full, the level of the fluid in the transmission is down to here. Now it's too low. Is that clear?
I think so. But why does it call for 11 quarts and you only put in 8?
Well, if you notice, the guide says approximate capacity. You see, overfilling is just as bad or worse than underfilling, because if you overfill, there's the danger of foaming or overheating. So we do the refill in 2 stages. Now we'll keep the engine idling while we put in just enough additional fluid to bring it up to the full mark. You know why we keep the engine running?
To keep it circulating?
Yeah, but let me show you. When you shut the motor off, some of the fluid in the coupling drains back into the transmission. After standing a while, the fluid may be as much as 1 inch above the full mark, which is here, and give you a false reading. So whenever you check the level of an automatic transmission, always be sure the engine's idling, the only way to get a correct reading.
I get it.
Now, this job was a hydromatic. And as I told you, all automatic transmissions are checked and drained and refilled in much the same way. The main difference is in the location of the drain and fill plugs. On the Dynaflow here, for example, there are 2 drain plugs on the converter. One is used to vent the converter. On the Ford-O-Matic, the transmission unit is drained by removing the fill pipe here. And in running the engine, some of them require a longer warm-up period than others. Some of them use the parking position instead of neutral. But it's all clearly indicated here in the guide. That's another reason for always using the guide whenever you do a Texomatic job. It'll save you a lot of time, and it'll save you a lot of costly mistakes.
The second week, I was feeling quite at home on the job. Had my regular housekeeping duties to take care of, knew my way around, but I soon found out my training was just beginning.
Well, Ken, you and I are going to work the island today. Now, I know you've serviced cars before, and I know you've had some experience selling. But that island is the key to the success of this whole operation. Our entire business depends on how we handle and service everybody who pulls up to those pumps. That's why I never let anyone service a customer alone until I'm sure he understands the full meaning of circle service.
You mean those 5 steps around the car?
Well, that's part of it. Going around the car in that order will save you a lot of walking back and forth. But there's a lot more to it than that. It's the best way to make a good impression on the customer. And making a good impression is the first step toward making a sale. Let's watch Bob now while he services this customer. I'll show you what I mean. Notice that he trots up to the car. It's just as easy, and it makes the customer feel that we're anxious to serve him. He greets the customer and cleans the right side of the windshield before he asks for the order. Now, that's awfully important, because then the customer knows he's going to get the service he's entitled to get.
Shall I fill it up with Sky Chief?
Please. Did you notice? He said, shall I fill it with Sky Chief? He didn't say, do you want regular or ethyl? We don't sell regular or ethyl. We sell the 2 finest gasolines on the market, Fire Chief and Top Octane Sky Chief with Petrox. So why not call them by name? Remind the customers they're getting the best gasoline money can buy. Keep on reminding them, and you'll keep them sold.
We used to clean the windshield after we put in the gas. Doesn't matter, does it, as long as you do it?
It matters a great deal. For one thing, you take fewer steps that way, and it makes a much better impression on the customer. How does he know you're going to clean his windshield? As long as you're going to do it anyway, why not do it first? Sell a lot more gasoline that way. I'll tell you just how much difference it makes. You clean the windshield before you ask for the order, and 4 times out of 5, you'll sell a full tank instead of just 5 gallons or $1 worth. Besides, look at all the steps you saved. Since Bob hit that car, he's only taken 7 or 8 steps, and he's in position to clean the rear window. Now he continues round the car and cleans the windshield on the other side. No lost motion there. Of course, all the time you're giving service, you're getting a chance to look the car over, to spot those chances for extra sales. That's the whole point of service, to give you a chance to sell all the things we're in business to sell. Now that Bob's at the front of the car, he wants to get a look under that hood. If there's any chance for a sale, he'll spot it.
I'll check your oil and water.
Sure, he's giving good service, and he's making a good impression on the customer. But he's doing a lot more than that. If the radiator takes a lot of water, he'll find out why. Maybe get a chance to sell some radiator hose or a fan belt. If the radiator's clogged or rusty, he can sell a radiator flush or radiator service. Same with the battery. Sure, he adds water if it's needed, but he also gets a chance to check the battery. Maybe it's time to sell a replacement. If the cables or terminals are corroded, gives him a chance to talk to the customer about the condition of the battery. So you see, every step in circle service is a step toward a sale. Of course, if your customer's in a hurry, give him what service you can, give him what he asks for, and get him on his way. But for his own protection, never miss checking the oil.
Your oil's down about a quart. Do you remember when you had it changed last?
I don't know. Only 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think.
Well, mind if I check your door jamb sticker? It's always best to play safe.
Sure.
Always check the door jamb sticker whenever you get a chance. And the easiest way to do that is to sweep out the floorboards. You'll be surprised how many oil changes and lube jobs you'll sell that way. The sticker will also help you sell oil filters, Texomatic changes, and a lot of other things that can only be sold on a mileage basis. Now, I don't expect you to learn to check and sell all these services all at once. It'll take a little while. So let's just take it a step at a time. You practice greeting the customer, wiping the windshield, and handling the gasoline order, and I'll handle the rest.
All that week, we worked like a team. If the boss was busy, Bob worked with me on every customer that drove in.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, son. I'd handle the greeting and the gasoline order. He'd work the other side, check under the hood.
Shall I fill it with Sky Chief, sir?
No, I use Fire Chief.
Yes, sir.
The way the boss explained it, working like a team that way, the customers got good service, I got my training, and we didn't miss any sales either. When I got the first steps down pat, I'd take my turn checking under the hood. Not everything all at once. First, I just get into the habit of checking the radiator, the hose connections, and the fan belt. Then I'd check the battery of every car that came in. If one of the cells took a lot of water, I'd take a reading on it. I even sold a couple of batteries, with the boss's help. About the fourth day, I went around the car by myself. But the boss was right there to make sure I didn't miss anything.
It's down a couple of quarts. Do you mind if I check your door jam sticker?
I can't understand that. I had it changed only a short while ago.
Your sticker says 38,152. You're about 200 miles overdue. It'll only take a few minutes to change it.
No, never mind. I haven't got the time now.
Yes, sir.
Do you think I could have sold him an oil change?
Well, maybe you could, but he seemed to be in such a hurry, it was better not to press it. You can't sell everybody every time they come in. You're doing fine, Ken. You just keep up your service the way you're doing, and you'll soon be making your sales quota. You see, Ken, selling is a business in itself. That's why we have weekly sales meetings. We're having one Monday on tire selling, on when and how to start talking about tires, on how to sell tires on the basis of safety, how to handle the matter of price, ways and means of closing a sale. Takes a long time to learn to be a top salesman, Ken. In fact, selling is something you can study all your life and still not learn all the answers. But look at it this way, Ken. By giving circle service, and by that I mean giving good service, half the selling job's done. Because in giving that kind of service, you've got the customer's attention. You're showing a real interest in his car. So naturally, he's interested in anything you have to say about the car. So when you spot something the customer needs for his own safety or his protection or his driving comfort, he's bound to be interested. Most times he'll buy without any further selling. Of course, if it's a major item like a tire or a battery, he may try to put off buying. That's when you have to know how to close a sale. But you just keep giving circle service, keep suggesting those needs, you'll be surprised how often they'll buy and how easy it is to make your quota of sales.
John Jones, who is surely a hero. Without him, our future is practically zero. Why does John rate so from East Coast to West? John Jones is a guy with some bucks to invest. A few million John Joneses are really essential for our nation to meet its future potential. Between now and 1975, we'll spend an amount quite nifty. To replace old plants and machinery, 200 billions, plus 50. While to build new plants to provide the jobs and machinery for added millions, we'll need still more, an amount, in fact, of some 600 billions. Put them together and you've got a figure that isn't exactly hay, and explains why industry has such need for lots of cash today. Since a good many companies can't get all they need only from what they're earning, for the money to grow, more and more of them to the John J. Joneses keep turning. But you can't attract those bucks of his by simply waiting and wishing. To get them, in fact, you'll have to face considerable competition.
I've got the dough and I'm ready to go, but I'm one boy you've got to show.
For the investor market is not unlike a midway at the fair, with different barkers telling why John should spend his money there.
Right this way, Fred. The greatest attraction on the pike. Uranium Gold Dust Incorporated. A penny today gives you $1 tomorrow. And it's the only stock on the market that glows in the dark. Here you are, young man. Invest with us. Give us your dollars and forget about him. American West Indian balloon is going up. Up! Up!
That blue sky stuff is all very fine, but security is a concern of mine.
Security, Mr. Jones. Now you're talking our language.
Your account is always welcome at City Savings and Loan. 4% on your money. That's $4 on every 100, you know. And your account is insured. If it's safety you want, my good man, you'll find it here.
A bank, Mr. Jones, is the place to save. And Fourth National welcomes your account. If you invest with us, you bank on your future.
Insurance, Mr. Jones. For the long run or the short run, consider insurance. It's truly a premium investment, and I assure you, when it comes to security, ours is the best policy.
Buy bonds, Mr. Jones. An investment in government bonds is an investment in the nation itself.
The point of security is most assuring, but to get good dividends is also alluring.
Dividends? Did you say dividends? Step this way, partner, and get the facts. Son, you just give a little thought to the business of liquid gold. That beautiful black stuff that makes the world go round. Dividends? Let me show you what's happened to dividends in our little old ever-loving business in the last few years. In 1945, we paid a $5 dividend. Last year, we paid a $12 dividend. Yankee money, too. The more we earn, the more dividends we pay. No, sir, we don't fool around in the oil business. Down, boy!
To have good dividends like yours is really great, I know, but what about a formula to make my money grow?
Formulas are my business, Mr. Jones. Invest in chemicals. We've got the formula for making your money make money. Here's how it works. If you had given us $100 for chemical stock in 1945, with our system of making high profits and pouring them back into the business, you would have $300 worth in today's market.
That's all very well for appreciation, but what of the problems that come with inflation?
If inflation's your worry, invest with us, Mr. Jones.
Put your money in a business that's close to the people. In times of inflation, we raise our prices to keep our profits in line.
Invest in merchandising, Mr. Jones. When our costs go up, we suit our prices to the need.
Hard goods is the buy, Mr. Jones. When our manufacturing costs rise, we raise our prices to ensure our investors adequate returns.
Build your future with the building business, brother. When labor and material costs go up, and it costs us more to do business, we adjust our prices accordingly.
To keep up with inflation, you may have ability, but I'm also concerned with some surefire stability.
Stability, Brother Jones. Now you're plugged in on the right circuit. The stock of power utilities is your buy, my good friend. Now, those dollars you have to invest didn't come easy, so naturally you want stability. And right here is where you'll find it. I'll show you why. Take a look at what's happened to a lot of other stocks in unregulated companies through the years. They've gone up, and they've gone down. Then up, then down. Then up, and tomorrow, who knows where. Now, most of our stocks, on the other hand, in the power utilities, have had a sure but steady rise. And what's more, brother, we have a long history of remaining in business. In a word, my friend, stability. As to dividends, well, it's true, our earnings are controlled by public service commissioners. And I'll level with you, brother, at times we may have been held back from earning as much as we felt was justified. But we've paid regular dividends, my friend, paid them like clockwork, year after year after year. And they've gone up some, too. So plug in on power utilities, brother. We've got your stability, regular dividends, and we grow as the country grows.
With so many choices, I'm in the position of finding it hard to make a decision.
Invest in missiles and electronics, Mr. Jones. Buy yourself a ticket to tomorrow. We're leaving for the moon in 30 seconds.
Right this way, son. Uranium Gold Dust Incorporated.
If it's safety you want, my good man, you'll find it here.
We don't fool around in the oil business, son. Dividends, we pour them out.
We've got the formula for making your money make money.
In times of inflation, we raise our prices to keep our profits in line.
Plug in on power utilities, brother. We've got your stability, regular dividends, and we grow as the country grows.
When they raise their prices, we raise ours.
Yes, Mr. Jones, it's really a problem for anyone with cash to invest to make up his mind, with so many choices, just which investment is best. And one thing concerns us here and now, and to seek the answers we'll try. To find out just how you do decide, Mr. John J. Jones, and why.